Tonight, the Seniors Advocate is calling on the province to start planning ahead and find better ways to keep seniors in their own homes. That story and...
Cocaine is the #1 drug that is responsible for killing people in Newfoundland and Labrador.
The RCMP isn't holding back, speaking out about the drastic and deadly consequences cocaine is having in this province.
We're expressing concerns about a proposed transition of gynecological surgery to the Janeway. I think basically at this point we're willing to wait and see where things go.
The NLMA might be content in their choice to wait out the decision, but the union that was going to stand alongside them, the Registered Nurses Union, are not.
Well, the candidates are very busy campaigning across the very large riding of Long Range Mountains for the upcoming federal election. Some familiar faces. Will this area stay red? I'll find out more. That's ahead.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Cocaine is getting stronger and more deadly. That was the message from the RCMP and the province's chief medical examiner today. They held a news conference following the release of the CBC documentary Pure Hell, which we aired last night. Reporter Ryan Cook has more on the police response.
Cocaine is the #1 drug that is responsible for killing people in Newfoundland and Labrador.
The RCMP was looking to drive this message home at a news conference on Wednesday. Across the province, from rural communities like Shejit to the capital city, more people are dying from cocaine than ever before.
Recent testing of street-level cocaine seized here in Newfoundland and Labrador show purity levels that we have never seen before.
Police say cocaine in this province typically hovered between 15 and 20%, but that number is now north of 90%. Putting a lot more people at risk of a quick death.
Individuals dying off usually die within minutes. So after 30 seconds, they can produce cardiac arrhythmia, leading to death in less than a couple of minutes. So it's very scary.
The number of cocaine deaths in this province has exploded, quadrupling in the last 5 years to a high of 43 deaths in 2024. But cocaine isn't the only thing to worry about. Denick and the RCMP also warned about counterfeit drugs that actually contain lethal ingredients such as protonitazine, a synthetic opioid far stronger than fentanyl.
These individuals that recently died due to the counterfeit drugs Xanax and Dilaudid or hydromorphone are younger than 20 years of age. Some of them are even children.
Denick's office has confirmed its first case of protonitazine death with 1 to 3 more suspected cases pending. Whether it's classics like cocaine, now more potent than ever, or new designer drugs targeting teens, officials are urging drug users to be careful, be prepared, and don't use alone. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a new report from the Seniors Advocate is calling on the province to focus on ways to keep seniors living at home for as long as possible, to help families plan ahead before a person's decline in health takes away their choice. Here and Now's Malone Mullen has that story.
This is how most people see their retirement: more spare time, fun, and freedom. For this retiree, these morning jam sessions are all part of the formula for staying young.
It starts up here. Attitude, I'm going to try, I can do it, I'm going to try it. If I can't do it, I'll try something else. So this is a powerful thing up here between the ears.
But music and an upbeat attitude aren't cure-alls for aging. And the province's Seniors Advocate says staying out of the nursing home requires a lot of planning ahead, something she says people in their golden years need to consider now. The newest report from her office highlights ways to age at home, but found nearly 3 in 4 seniors haven't taken the steps to do that. Things like installing grab bars or anti-slip tape, or getting rid of stairs.
81% of hospital admissions for seniors in Canada were caused by falls, many of which could have been prevented.
And 1/3 of seniors hospitalized for a fall end up admitted to long-term care. But the advocate found the majority can't afford to make home modifications or don't know where to start. That's why the report recommends government author a how-to guide for seniors and start offering interest-free loans for home improvements. Walsh says those changes are just as necessary as Charlie Bodie's weekly jam session. And some regulars at this senior centre say they are planning ahead.
We have a ramp outside our house. If anybody in a wheelchair wants to come to visit, then our house is open. Just as easy to build a ramp as to build a set of stairs.
We just built a home about 14 years ago, and it's completely accessible. And when I walked in the door, I said the next step for me is calls.
While these retirees stay busy, they're wise enough to know that a bit of planning now could have a big payoff when it comes to their future and their sense of freedom. Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the union representing pediatricians is giving the head of Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services the benefit of the doubt. As we reported earlier this week, doctors didn't support plans to move gynecological care to the Janeway. Here Now's Jenna Head brings us an update.
Unions representing pediatricians and nurses called down a morning news conference Wednesday. They're at odds with the province over a plan to move gynecological care to the Janeway. It was the Medical Association that made the call to cancel after NL Health Services CEO Dr. Pat Parfrey dropped by.
He is a doer and wants to get things improved in the system, but he also wants to collaborate.
Collaborations through consultation is what Janeway pediatricians want. They worry about obstetrics and gynecology services being moved to the Children's Hospital 4th floor. So much so, they wrote a 30-page report.
I think some of the problems we see in the system is that frontline workers, whether they are nurses, doctors, or other healthcare providers, that are not necessarily engaged when decisions are made. And the fear is that those decisions, that if they're not made appropriately, are harmful to our patients and the population.
Parfrey sees the pushback.
There's no doubt that the paediatricians are against it because they feel that the Janeway should be a children-alone clinic or children-alone hospital.
But says it's a move meant to solve a bigger issue beyond the walls of the Janeway.
We've got approximately 30 patients that are in corridors every day that are waiting to be admitted to the Health Sciences Centre.
The nurses' union was prepared to stand with the NLMA in a joint news conference and says it still has questions and concerns, specifically around staffing resources. But the health minister says that's all being looked at.
I mean, if you're moving new patients, new services into an area, you would have new staff. So I don't think that's a concern that they need worry themselves about unduly.
Haggie has yet to see the report but says the move is already underway. And Haggie says the unions will be part of that process. Women's health services are expected to start to move to the Janeway in 2025. Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, they won't be happy campers for long. Dozens of residents of Cochrane Pond Family Campground have been told to vacate the park within 48 hours. The City of St. John says for many, moving won't be easy, but the city has been forced to take drastic measures against the park's owner. Councillor Sandy Hickman met with reporters today to explain.
Well, the city has had complaints from residents, I guess, there, and we've been following up on them over the last number of months and have had multiple visits from our inspection services and the St. John's Regional Fire Department. We've followed up on it. We have given notices over a while ago and allowed some time for these to be acted upon, and a time is up, and now we've we've ordered them to move from the site and to take care of the deficiencies. Then they'll be allowed to be opened up. Once they're taken care of, they will be allowed to open up again.
What are the deficiencies or the complaints?
There's a myriad, put it that way. And the bottom line is that many of them are life safety. We understand that this is drastic for some of the people living there, no question about it. And we didn't take this lightly. This decision was thought about, and we were concerned, and we work with the operator. But now it's time to make sure this is all taken care of.
We don't know how many people are being displaced, whether they're permanent or whether we know about it or otherwise?
We don't go in there and count who's staying there and how many. I mean, there's over 100 sites, I think, but I'm sure it's not completely full. But whether that's 50 or 100, I mean, who knows? There are a lot of people there. and we are concerned.
Who is the owner of the park?
It's a numbered company, and I'm not sure exactly who the owners are. We're not sure exactly who the owners are, actually.
So when you say they got to leave, do they have to take their things with them, like their campers and their
Yeah,
trailers and tents?
Yeah, if they have a well-established site there, some of them have a lot of equipment there, and so we have to allow a bit of time for that. But we want them to get started on this and get moving within 48 hours if they possibly can.
What happens next? What now?
Right now, Chris, they have to clean up, and they have to take care of it. As simple as that. They have some work ahead of them to make sure that place is safe and habitable. And we will have inspectors there on a regular basis going forward until this is taken care of.
With the election less than 2 weeks away, West Coast candidates are knocking on doors, covering ground across the massive riding of Long Range Mountains. With Liberal Goody Hutchings not seeking re-election, it means there will be a first-time member of Parliament elected there. Here Now's Colleen Connors has more.
It's a cold, windy spring day on Elizabeth Street in Corner Brook. Liberal candidate Don Bradshaw knocks on doors looking for votes, not a story. Bradshaw has been a television reporter here for 25 plus years, a familiar face. He says he has always been interested in politics, and his years of covering the news on the West Coast and the Northern Peninsula makes him the ideal candidate for this riding.
I've been in journalism for 36 years. I know the issues, I know the policies, I know the people who are comprise this riding, and I've talked to them for generations, so I know exactly what the issues are here. Not to badmouth any of the other candidates, but I have more experience in that realm than any of those people combined.
Goody Hutchings was the MP for this riding, but last year she announced she wouldn't be seeking re-election. She first won the seat in 2015, and in the last election she was up against Conservative candidate Carol Anstey, who came real close to taking it, 1,800 votes close. And she's been campaigning for the spot ever since. She would not do a CBC television interview for this story. However, in comments to CBC Radio, she drew upon her experience as a realtor and the major housing challenges people are facing.
I have been in the housing business for 16 years, and I have watched housing prices increase because of lack of supply in local housing markets. Lack of supply puts upward pressure on the price of homes in our communities. Conservatives will remove the federal sales tax on all new homes up to $1.3 million. This will save home buyers $25,000 on a $500,000 home and spur construction.
And we need to be a little empathetic. Yes.
Anstey and Bradshaw are not the only two in the race. NDP candidate Sarah Parsons wants to represent the riding as well. She spoke to Grenfell campus students for over an hour about housing prices and daycare costs.
I just feel that the New Democratic Party's values align the most with mine. You know, we don't want to compromise our morals in order to make profits. They are the party that I feel works for everyone, not just the select few, regardless of where you live or what tax bracket you're in. So for me, the NDP was really the party that I gravitated towards, and I'm very proud to represent.
When voters look at their ballot, they will also see independent Robbie Coles and the People's Party of Canada's Pamela Geiger.
Great, I appreciate that.
The Long Range Mountains riding is vast, with a lot of communities to cover before the end of the month. The most recent poll suggests that the Liberals will take this riding once again. Now, residents can vote here at the Elections Canada office in Corner Brook or the office in Stephenville by special ballot anytime before April 22nd. Advance polling opens from 9 to 9 this Easter weekend at both locations. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
A provincial advocacy group is calling on the Justice Minister to use ankle bracelet monitors to protect survivors of intimate partner violence.
There's going to be something happen again. It wouldn't surprise me if it happens very soon.
I'll have more on that coming up.
provincial advocacy group is calling on government to make good on a promise it made almost 1 year ago. Act Now NL wants to see the use of ankle bracelet monitors expanded to better protect those fleeing intimate partner violence, saying it's proven to work elsewhere. Here Now's Henrika Wilhelm reports.
There's very little protection in between when a person charges her partner with intimate partner violence crimes, and then that person is let out on bail.
According to these advocates, one solution, ankle bracelet monitors. While they're already used for people convicted of crimes and released from custody on temporary absences, conditions, or probation, Act Now also wants them as a bail condition for those accused of serious or repeat intimate partner violence. For the people they work with every day, here at Iris Kirby House, it would mean some safety.
So they can live their life without constant terror is what we're seeing. And we're seeing the iceberg.
Last June, then Justice Minister John Hogan said the measure would come within weeks or months. But almost a year later, they are still waiting for a measure they say could ease the burden on the system.
I would think easily be confident in saying that 40% of the court docket is related to intimate partner violence.
They point to other provinces across the country, like Prince Edward Island, where monitors are used as a release condition specifically for those accused of IPV crimes. And advocates there say it's one of several measures that has had a positive impact.
Something labeled accidental may, in reality, be a homicide. We can't perfectly know these things. But in terms of the cases that have made it to the media, there has not been a woman killed by her current or former partner on PEI since 2015. And that is surprising. That is below the national average. It's below what we would expect for a population of our size.
Back in St. John's, another Act Now member believes first-hand experience like that should be the push to expand the program.
It's really disheartening to our committee that hasn't happened. This is a life-saving measure, and it is an evidence-based tool. It's proven to work.
Yet, when asked about the use of monitors pre-conviction, Justice Minister Bernard Davis said they are already in place. Those people who are already wearing the ankle bracelet monitors, are those people who are charged, or are those people who are convicted?
Variety of concerns. I can get that information for you. The number breakdown of those individuals that will be wearing them, they could be released on bail.
And Davis emphasized monitors are not a perfect solution, just one tool to be used.
We want to make sure that people are super vigilant when they deal with this kind of IPV in particular. But we're always looking as a government to do more use of technology, use of opportunities. If there's stakeholders have ideas that they want us to look at, we're going to do that.
There has been women killed in the past year. There's going to be something happen again. And I wouldn't surprise me if it happens very soon.
In a later email, a department spokesperson clarified that monitors are not used with people on bail and that a future implementation is still being examined. Meanwhile, for Act Now, every day the measure isn't in place, it puts those fleeing intimate partner violence at risk. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
UNABASHED, unabashed.
I'm speechless. And proud.
Oh, goodness. Those smarty pants have a lot to be proud of following this weekend's provincial spelling competition in St. John's. Congratulations to winner Mason Gill, who will represent the province at the National Spelling Bee in Ottawa next month.
How great is that? Well, we had some pretty beautiful weather today, especially in the east later on. We've got this area of low pressure that is going to bring some unsettled weather over the night tonight for parts of the west coast and some more snow up to parts of Labrador. We also have a few spring-like days in the mix there, which I will certainly get into when we get back after the break.
Time for a look at the weather. And Ashley, I'm hearing that it is beautiful outside right now.
It turned into an absolutely gorgeous evening here in the east. Take a look at the shot behind me. Sunshine. There's a little bit of cloud cover, though, out there. But the temperatures, my goodness, 13 degrees is the temperature right now, with winds out of the west-southwest around 22 kilometers per hour. And if we take a look at the temperatures across the island, definitely the warmest and a big spread of temperatures depending on where you are. So Makkovik, 0 degrees. Same thing for Churchill Falls, Lab City as well. And then you get towards Sea Island portion of the province, and there's a big spread in the temperatures as well. Onshore winds leading to cooler temperatures along southern areas of the island. Through central, you're looking at temperatures between 8 and 9 degrees. And then again, the northern peninsula only topping out at about 1 degree this afternoon. If we take a look at what's going on satellite-wise, you can see there is some clearing through parts of central, definitely in the east, and then up across the northern peninsula, still hanging on to some of that cloud cover. Same thing up across Labrador, but we do have some more weather on the way thanks to an area of low pressure. That is over the maritime provinces at the moment, but that is going to head towards Labrador and the west coast of the island as we head through the next couple of hours. And we can see that there. Likely just the chance of a few showers and maybe even some wet snow in the mix there, particularly for the southwestern corner of the island. And then in southerly flow along the south coast, you'll likely see a few showers as well. This will fall as snow up across northern portions of Labrador as well as the west. And that will continue through a good chunk of the night tonight, with some flurry activity expected through the Upper Lake Melville area. And then for the coast, either showers or flurries as we head into the early morning hours. So temperatures are going to sit somewhere between 0 and about +3 across a good chunk of the island. The west coast, you're looking at your southerly winds gusting upwards of about 50 kilometers per hour. Most of Labrador will be seeing your winds around 40 kilometers per hour gusting. And then temperatures between -2 and about the 0 degree mark. Now, for tomorrow, it should turn into a pretty beautiful day in the afternoon across the Avalon again, with some sunshine. Likely still going to see the chance of a few scattered or isolated showers through central. Southerly flow is going to keep those temperatures a little on the cool side for those of you along the south coast. And don't be surprised to see a few flurries or showers either. That will be the story for the west coast, northern peninsula through the day. And then eventually for Labrador, particularly in the west, you will see some periods of snow continue through the day, but that should taper to some flurries later in the evening. And then around Happy Valley Goose Bay, again looking at the chance of some showers or flurries, and that will be the case around the coast as well. A little bit of milder air will lead to that chance of some shower activity. And then as we head through the overnight, we'll likely see a little bit of clearing as we head into early Friday morning. So as far as the snowfall goes, through Friday morning, there's a good chance we'll see somewhere between 10 to 15 centimeters for the western portion of Labrador, and then same thing for the north coast. Otherwise, a couple of centimeters here and there, and again, it'll be more of a wet snow, so it'll have a little trouble accumulating. It'll likely only accumulate on those grassy surfaces, which is really what we've been seeing. So as far as temperatures go tomorrow, cut the island in half and head east, and temperatures should be between 7 and 10 degrees. Island-wide, though, looking at some gusty southwesterly winds tomorrow, anywhere from about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. The western half of the island will sit somewhere between 1 to about 3 or even 4 degrees, maybe around 6 through the interior. And then for Labrador, generally in the mid single digits for the Upper Lake Melville area and towards the southeast, and then hanging on to that snow for the north and west coast, or north and western portion of Labrador. And again, generally around the 1 degree mark, with northwesterly winds between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. So there is some spring-like weather still in the forecast, and I'll break that down for you coming up a little later.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Well, I suspect this next story is going to be adorable. You may remember last week when we talked about the Elks Avalon Spelling Bee. Well, a winner has been crowned and will represent the province at the Canada Super Spelling Bee in Ottawa this summer. The youngest competitor, grade 3 student Mason Gill, outspelled everyone over the weekend, and we were there.
EQUIVOCAL, equivocal.
SPURT, spurt.
UNABASHED, unabashed. INVULRABLE, invulnerable. DEMONSTRABLE, demonstrable. NECROSIS, necrosis. OGNATE, cognate. ICAL, allegorical.
Correct.
STUPENDOUS. OOLONG, oolong. PLETHORA, plethora.
Correct.
And how do you feel knowing that you're going to represent the province at the National Spelling Bee?
Like I said, I have no idea. A lot of these questions are going to be, I have no idea.
He worked so hard. He got his word list of 200 words just over a week ago, and he made sure every morning when he got up, he was going through his words. Every evening before he went to bed, he trained really hard. He went to bed with his spelling list last night. He was going over words on the drive here. He worked really hard, and I think it's safe to say we're all very proud of him.
I'm speechless. And proud.
He must be one of the youngest competitors. What does that mean to you, Gilbert, to see your son do so well against kids so much older?
Gotta love the underdog, right?
I now understand what it's like to be an intense sports mom. I'll put it that way. Our kids play sports, but more in a rec capacity. So being here, I know what it's like now to watch your elite athlete.
A lot of parties try to impose party discipline, and I understand that from a national context. However, it doesn't necessarily always allow our local candidates to speak up on local issues.
Well, Peter Cowan returns just after the break with his panel of political insiders, from provincial issues to unpredictable presidents. That conversation is just ahead.
Whenever there was a federal election, we always
As the federal election enters the home stretch, advanced polling stations are open on some campuses. We asked student voters at Memorial University in St. John's about the issues that made the difference in their decision.
Thank you so much. So what issues are important for you in this election?
So actually I'm a biology student and I work in a research lab, so science funding is probably one of the most important things for me.
I think government corruption is the biggest thing. The politicians in our government now take lots of advantages from the positions they hold, and holding them accountable for what they do and the things they can do in the positions they hold is important.
Important for me mainly is I'm looking at kind of like research and how we can fund science and just move my way towards researching in general. I'm a psychology student mainly, so funding is pretty important for us to get everything we need to do.
There's been a lot of talk of Trump in this election and who's best to deal with him. How much did that factor in for you?
A lot, I think. I think anything that serves taking him down as soon as possible is best.
Mostly thinking about basic reproductive rights, gender rights, the right to self-determine, that sort of thing. A lot of it is spurred by, of course, the results of the American election, but it is also tilting in some degree to the same side in Canada, and that's something I really want to pay attention to this election cycle. And I think it is extremely important to not be a one-trick voter, if that makes sense. So don't vote just because this is how you've always voted. If it is genuinely in your best interest, if you've done your research, if you've looked at all the things you need to look at, I'd say don't be afraid to vote for a different party this time around.
And staying with the federal election, Peter Cowan has assembled a panel of political insiders to get their take on the race for who will be the next prime minister. He started part 2 of the conversation with a question about how this province is represented on the world stage.
We're not hearing a lot of discussion about Newfoundland and Labrador issues within this campaign. And I'm curious why that is. I want to get your take. Is this that people are more concerned about the national issues because of things like Trump, which has really dominated? What do you think is behind this? Amanda, let's start with you.
I mean, I know that newsrooms they're doing everything that they can, but they're, sometimes they're not out. There's a number of debates happening, and not all the time can somebody go out to that debate in the evening and then play it back. I think people are also bringing up Trump and worried about it, but what I'm hearing is how much are things going to cost? I was talking to some women in Gambo actually recently, and they were like, I've got this old car, and if the parts break, how am I going to get them?
With the tariffs in place
exactly,
coming
right?
from the United States.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think on the federal scene, a lot of parties try to impose party discipline, and I understand that from a national context.
Mm-hmm.
However, it doesn't necessarily always allow our local candidates to speak up on local issues. I think, Peter, one thing that's interesting in this cycle is I haven't seen, as much as I'm not necessarily always a fan, there's been no letter from the Premier requesting the federal leader's stance on a variety of issues. I mean, we talk about the fishery and things like this that are coming up. These are issues of federal jurisdiction. Look at marine protected areas. The federal Liberals are calling for 30% of our entire ocean to be restricted to fishing and offshore development. I mean, this place is more than a national park. I mean, we have to be allowed to develop our resources, and those type of things aren't being discussed. And I'd in some context, I'd put it back on our provincial leaders.
Back in between the years 2004 to 2012, whenever there was a federal election, we always cooled our heels, as it were, until we received the infamous letter. The Danny Williams letter, we called it. It had a list of demands, and to say that we were scared, you know what, we certainly were. Because it didn't so much depend on the answers you gave, but also depended on what you didn't say and what things not to say. Because the questions were very specific, and I give the government of the day the credit for that, because some of the specific questions were not just about fishery, but also, what do we do about northern cod? What do we do about the redfish quotas on the west coast? Or what do we do? Marine Atlantic was always one that was a thorny issue. There were no right answers with Marine Atlantic. There was only wrong answers.
And Scott,
go ahead.
So if I could, a big issue that's come up this past week is the national energy corridor in the country, which is a huge issue for Newfoundland and Labrador, which I don't hear anyone provincially talking about. You have Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives advocating for a national energy corridor. You have Mark Carney saying that nothing will happen without buy-in from Quebec. On top of that, you have Wab Kinew, your NDP premier in Quebec, in Manitoba, who has just approved like an $80 million investment to create a deep water port in Churchill, essentially to bypass Quebec with oil and critical minerals to get it to market. That is a huge issue for Newfoundland and Labrador. If every ship is going to pass by the coast of Labrador, and we are going to miss out on what's coming in the next decades entirely. And we don't have a single provincial politician holding our federal politicians to account on any stripe on how this is going to go.
But I mean, one of the things Wab Kinew is doing is he's actually looking at diversification, right? So he's talking about a port and that kind of stuff. What we're not seeing provincially here, perhaps, is we have, you know, a bit of a tired provincial government that's going through a leadership change itself right now. Carney came here. One of the biggest things going on in the month of April is talking about snow crab. And Joanne Thompson, who's the fisheries minister, didn't have the foresight to actually say, you know, maybe we should set up a meeting with these people. I mean, they shut down the budget last year. For her to be the supposed fisheries minister and not see that as something really important to talk about locally, that is a real problem.
You don't think Mark Carney was excited about $4.97 a pound crab?
Well, it's not about that. He's not even talking to them.
We've been talking about the local campaigns, a lot of the local candidates and the dynamics at play. How much does that matter? Give me an idea of what you've heard in terms of, like, are people taking a close look at who are my local candidates, or are they taking a close look at Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney and Jagmeet Singh?
I do believe that some people, they are looking at the national leaders and wondering who do I want to vote for, but they're also knowing, like, on the ground, you know, who is the best representative for them to bring their voices to Ottawa.
A huge issue is people want to make sure that they're being heard and the candidate is talking to them, not at them. And I think there's a soft line there that if people think you're getting a bit too distant from the district or from the riding if you're not from it. The other thing I would say, what Prime Minister Carney brought to this race was he brought with him some strong candidates, meaning people who would have never stuck their nose out for Trudeau have popped up. And I give full credit to those candidates. And with candidates come organization. And it's an interesting campaign this time because you had 2 years of the Conservatives riding high, and I would say we are as organized in this province, in this cycle, as we have been maybe in decades. You have that enthusiasm, which is rare for a tired and 10-year-old government coming out of the Liberals. You have that enthusiasm back in, you have strong organization there. And you have Mary Shortall, the president of the National Party, and the mobilization that comes with that for the NDP. So from a federal sense, you have the candidates and the local scene. For a quiet campaign here locally, it's a very well-organized one in all parts, I would say.
Scott, we'll leave the last word to you on this.
Yeah, well, there was nowhere to go but up for the Conservatives since the ending of the ABC campaign. That thing hung around for a long time. God knows I dined off that narrative for quite some time.
I lived it, Scott. Imagine.
You lived it, yeah. And listen, Ed, there was a big divide between provincial and federal Conservatives. Now there's an organization to a greater extent than what it was. Let me go back to your point about local candidates. I always build my campaign as working for you. I always believed in voting, even in 2015, When Justin Trudeau was riding a high and everyone loved what he was doing and they wanted to vote for him Prime Minister, I said, fine, but remember there's a local candidate you should vote for. And that's where I put myself forward. And of course, many years later, he wasn't as popular, not near as popular, and ran into that. So do local candidates matter? In George Baker's day, it was a lot. And since then, it's gone down and down and down and down, or each successive year. And you just have to look at the examples of people like, I won't use myself as an example, I'll give you a very good example of a very fine member of parliament, did a great job, a lot of lobbying, he did what is expected of a local member of parliament each and every time, and lost. And his name is Fabian Manning. And Fabian, and I'm not just saying to Eugene's benefit, I really mean that. I thought Fabian was a fabulous MP, a strong advocate, but he could not get rid of the Harper and the ABC campaign. It was just something he could not overcome despite what he did. I faced it, of course, with Trudeau, and even Jack Harris faced it when he was back in 2015. People wanted to get rid of Harper.
Well, listen, I appreciate all three of you for coming in and sharing your insights, and we'll check back in with you as the campaign progresses. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
you. It's been a great discussion.
Nice to see you both.
Interesting chat there. And staying with the election, a little bit earlier, we told you about students over at Memorial University who are casting a ballot right now. And it's also election day in prisons and jails across Canada, a right federal inmates have had for more than 20 years. As ballots are being cast, a Canadian senator is trying to improve the process. The CBC's Natalia Goodwin explains the challenges that still exist for incarcerated voters.
Rick Sauvé was still in prison when he started the fight to get inmates the right to vote. That was in the 80s. It took him until 2002 and a visit to the Supreme Court to win the right for every inmate, something he thinks is essential to rehabilitation.
You keep telling people that are inside prison that they're not worthy to have those civil rights. You're telling them that they're not worthy to be in the community. That's the way that people inside feel.
Sauvé has continued to advocate for prisoners' rights, including around voting. Now he's getting some help. Senator Bernadette Clément has launched a report on the issue. She was in Kingston Wednesday at the Collins Bay Institution to watch the vote in person. During her research, she discovered that barriers still exist, including getting information.
They don't get direct information from the parties. And so they're very well aware that they want to have unfiltered information, not just through ads. They want to be able to access platform information or party websites, but they can't do that because there is no internet access. So that is part of the barrier.
Correctional Service Canada says it ensures every offender is made aware of their right to vote and is provided with an opportunity to do so, and says if a candidate or campaign volunteer wants to visit an institution, they can, and CSC would arrange a meeting room where inmates could talk to them. Campaigns can also provide literature, which would be put in a common area, like a library. But Clément says part of the problem is that inmates have to vote in the riding where they last lived, where they would live if not incarcerated, or where they were arrested or convicted.
They cannot vote from the riding where the prison is located. And that creates an extra barrier in terms of registration. But it also means that they can't vote on issues concerning their institution. They can't vote in the riding where they will spend, many of them, many years of their lives.
Senator Clément does not have a fixed date as to when the report will be out, but hopes it will be available a few weeks after the election. She plans to share it with any inmates that want to see it and send it to officials with Correctional Service Canada and Elections Canada, both of which she hopes to get responses from. Natalia Goodwin, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, now for something completely different. With a name like Colossal squid, you'd think finding one in the wild would be easy. But this is the first time the species has been filmed in its natural habitat. This is a baby colossal squid encountered by a research vessel just over 600 meters below sea level. These creatures have never been seen since being discovered 100 years ago. These elusive creatures can grow to more than 20 feet long and weigh up to 500 kilos. Stay with us. Ashley will be back with your forecast just ahead. Well, before we talk about the forecast, quick note, we don't have a show on Friday, so that means our usual birthdays and anniversary announcemements that we do on Friday, we're going to move that ahead to Thursday. So just want to let you know, if you've submitted any birthday or anniversary announcements, or you just like watching them like we do, they're fun, then they're going to happen on tomorrow's show instead of Friday. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm still thinking about how beautiful it is outside. I'm looking forward to stepping out and seeing that sunshine. How long is this going to last?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of days actually of some spring-like weather here in the east, which is nice. That's not the case though everywhere. Unfortunately, some areas still dealing with some wintry weather. Let's take a look at what's going on until we get there. So Friday, we are going to see some sunshine across parts of the island. Now, the northern peninsula likely going to hang on to the cloud cover and the chance of some flurries, and then pretty much up across Labrador, most of you will be seeing the flurry activity as well. Now, there may be a few peaks of sun in the mix through the afternoon, and then we'll see some increasing cloud across the island as well, with the potential for a few flurries on the west coast. But overall temperatures for central and eastern areas of the island anyway will be somewhere between 6 to 9 degrees. Cooler, though, for the west coast as you hover around 2, 3, and even 4 degrees for the northern peninsula. Now, across Labrador, you're looking at temperatures in the single digits as well, likely topping 7 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. But as you head further west, though, flurry activity again and chances or temperatures sitting around -1. Now, as we head into Saturday, another fairly nice day to start across the island, southeastern portions of Labrador as well. You will be seeing some sunshine, but clouds will be on the increase. Our next weather maker moving in, another round of snow for parts of Lab West. And then we'll eventually see some showers move in. That will be the story starting in the southwest, and then through the overnight, we will see those showers move towards central, eastern, and eventually the northern peninsula into early Sunday. Temperatures will again between 4 and about 10 degrees across the island. And then for Labrador, your temperatures will be in the single digits, mid-single digits, with the exception of Lab West, where you will hover around +1 through the day on Saturday. Your temperature's really not moving a whole lot. Sunday is going to be rainy. That will be the story for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Monday, there's a chance we could see some snow. There's a little bit of uncertainty for Monday, but keep that in mind. Temperatures will hover around the 5-degree mark, maybe even a little cooler. And then for central Newfoundland, same thing. By the time we get into Monday and western Newfoundland, the system that moves in could bring some snow to you as well, especially in the overnight. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at about 4 to 5 degrees as we get to Sunday and Monday. And then western Labrador, your temperatures will be pretty similar, but you're going to be more on the snowy side up until then. Our weather photo is taken in St. John's. This is a 22-degree halo. Lovely photo of that over Signal Hill there. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like there's a plane going through there.
Oh, that's what that is. I could see that. I thought that was the light, but that's a plane.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, Lewis got that one. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that's a great shot. Thank you so much, Lewis. So it sounds like some nice stretch of weather for the long Easter weekend.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, until we get towards Sunday and Monday.
Some good days, some bad days.
That's right. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.